basketball player of all time.
Who's the greatest basketball player of all time?
I was joking.
Who is?
Said DeMar DeRozan, greatest basketball player of all time.
I believe actually LeVar Ball is the greatest basketball player of all time. Followed closely.
According to his dad.
Followed closely by Lonzo.
Nothing pisses me off more than to go on YouTube and then literally watch like LaMelo Ball or Lorenzo Balls or whatever the middle one's name is. Their high school tapes.
The cherry picker.
And they are awful. Like that Melo kid, they're like, oh, he's probably the best. Dude can't shoot threes. Like he literally shot like 30 threes one time and made 7.
on the bright side, his brother's Steph Curry, so he's not gonna have to.
Yeah, I guess.
All right, unbeknownst to Christian, we started the show. Welcome to Bet Against Me. We've been on a little bit of a hiatus over the last week and a half. That's because I've been buried in the Bahamas, and Christian's been preparing for a move to Atlanta. That's still a mystery.
Progress?
Still a mystery to me and all of our friends. But okay, yeah. That's news that you would share with normal people. But I guess we're just gonna keep it on the DL.
I like to just go like head first, dive into something, and then when somebody's like, "Oh, where are you at?" just surprise them with that.
We got a pretty good show today. We're going to talk about the Sweet 16. Of course, we wish we could have done the entire tournament, but life happens. But we've got 8 awesome games that I'm pretty excited for, and like I said, I'm here with my friend Christian as always, and we're also going to have my friend Brandon, who was 30 for 32 in the first round. How do you go 30 for 32 in the first round? I think I got 26 right, or 24. I don't think I've ever gotten 30. That's a lot of games to get correct. All right, so the first game of the Sweet 16 will be 7:09 on CBS, Michigan versus Oregon. Michigan is being labeled as ESPN as the Cinderella. I don't know if you can label the Big Ten tournament champion as Cinderella. They're playing some of their best basketball that they've played all year. They've been super hot. They can't miss from three-point range. On the other hand, Oregon's playing without Chris Boucher, which has been well documented throughout the tournament, and they have not looked particularly fantastic since losing him. Rhode Island was a good team. Christian has rightfully been on the Rhode Island bandwagon for a good time. They ended up beating them by 3. Took care of Iona, which I think was one of the weaker mid-majors in the tournament. Their last loss was to Arizona by 3. They haven't been playing great. They certainly haven't been playing the same basketball that they were maybe a month ago or 2 months ago, especially with Boucher. But they're not playing bad, but they meet the hottest team in college basketball, without a doubt. So Michigan is going to be the 1-point favorite in this game, even though they're the 7 seed. Michigan's 19-17 against the spread. Oregon 19-15-1 against the spread. Christian, who is going to win this game?
Well, I think it's a very good matchup between two really good teams. I mean, Oregon, like you said, without Chris Boucher, kind of hurts, but they still have enough firepower, I think, to score with Michigan, with Dylan Brooks and Dorsey as well. So I think that they'll have the ability to score with them. But Michigan has just been putting up insane numbers these first 2 games of the tournament. I know that they have the number 1 offense and offense efficiency according to KenPom. But I mean, it honestly, knowing what I've seen 4 or 5 of their games where I've actually just watched them start to end this year, and one of them was Virginia Tech, which they lost, and the other one was the late game later in the year against Purdue, and I just didn't think that they'd have that ability to make a run deep in the tourney. Just didn't seem like they had the complete makeup of a team that could, but man, they're proving me wrong. I mean, John Beilein has a team again that makes a Sweet 16, and he's one of those coaches that has had extreme success while he's made the Sweet 16. So I think with him and with everything that Michigan has going on from their plane crash, before the Big Ten tourney. I think that they're still riding a wave of momentum, and I honestly think it will carry them through this game. Definitely will be close, but I like Michigan and the -1.
When does what I wonder is when does their shooting, I don't want to say luck, but the best shooting teams, even the best shooting teams have poor shooting nights, and it seems like they haven't had a poor shooting night since probably that Purdue game, which wasn't particularly poor of a shooting night either. I mean, I understand that they're a good shooting team, and they're drilling every three they throw up, especially in the last couple games. When does that luck run out? Because they're going to have to keep doing that. They're not talented enough, probably, to go toe-for-toe against a team like Oregon and pound the ball inside, the whole time. They're going to have to hit threes. They're going to have to keep shooting at the clip they're shooting at, right?
I don't think that their shooting stops. I don't think that they stop shooting at a high percentage. Even if they do lose against Oregon, I still think that they'll shoot a very high percentage. And the reason why is because they've been doing it all year, and they've been doing it meanwhile having one of the slowest tempos in the game. So they methodically go about their offense, and they find the shots that they want, and they make the shots that they want.
How does Oregon win the game? What does Oregon have to do to win the game?
Shoot really well. I mean, that's really the only way you're going to be able to do it. I mean, Michigan controls the game with their tempo, and they're able to drag you down to their pace of play. And if you're playing that game of just up and down, just consistently making shots where you just have to match somebody, it eventually drags on you, especially if you don't have a consistent offense. So all Oregon really has to do is have Dylan Brooks and Tyler Dorsey just say, hey, we're the best players on the court. Yeah. We're going to prove it.
I agree. I think Dylan Brooks may not let them lose. I think I don't know that he's proved it to me yet, but I kind of get the same feeling about him as I did when I think of Kemba Walker a couple years ago. I just don't know that he's going to let his team lose.
I think Jordan Bell is also a real crucial matchup for them. I think he's got to have a good game, not only offensively, but I think defensively, especially with Wagner shooting as well as he's been shooting these last two games, really come on these last two games, much more than he's been throughout the season. And DJ Wilson has played extremely well on both ends of the ball.
I guess I should have actually phrased this question to Brandon when I said who's going to win this game, because you got 30 out of 32 games right in the first round, and me and Christian didn't even get close to that. I think I got like 20. Yeah, I got
28.
I got 24. He got 28. Who are you taking in this Oregon-Michigan matchup with Michigan being favored by a point?
Oh, Michigan for sure, and I'm almost tempted to bet on them on the futures line for the national championship because
super good value.
Right. They were at plus 1,600 or plus 1,700 today, I think. And I think that the spread right now is -1 for Michigan. And I just don't see how Oregon will stay with them unless, like you guys said, they shoot really well. They've been playing so well, and they really have reminded me a lot of the UConn team with Kemba Walker, where they went into their conference tournament, played super well, and won their conference tournament, and then went into the tournament and just kept steamrolling that and went to the national championship and won it. And I don't remember what seed they were, but they were
an 8 seed that year.
They were around 7 or 8 from what I remember. And the Michigan team reminds me a lot of that style where you go on a win streak towards the end of the season, go win your conference tournament and just keep that hot streak going. And basketball's
Connecticut was a 7 as well.
7?
Just to reiterate.
So, I mean, if you're looking at futures bets, so I'm definitely going with, I've already bet
Michigan
on this
in the game.
Yeah, for sure. Michigan over Oregon. I wish I had picked him on a bracket. I almost picked him over Louisville, but I went with Louisville. But, yeah, Michigan on the spread, -1 as pick 'em is, that's definitely how I'm going. And then, even if you want to go with them on the futures bet, I think there's some great value there.
And keep in mind, like this whole thing with Oregon, I mean, there's no slight to Oregon in this at all. I mean, Oregon's a number 2 seed if they have Chris Boucher. That's how well they've been playing all year with him. So the only reason that they put him down to a 3. So I just think that Michigan has to play how they've been playing.
Just to further reiterate that point, we were talking earlier in the season that Oregon might be the best all-around basketball team.
Oh yeah,
with him, Chris Boucher, we thought they were maybe a number 1. Number 2 seed that was like this is probably who we're going to pick. as our champion going forward.
Right.
It matched up well with everybody.
So we'll see. Michigan, the 1.5-point favorite, even though they're the 7 seed. They do remind you a lot of that Oregon or that UConn team, but I kind of think their luck runs out here. Oregon's a good basketball team. I think they're playing for Boucher. I'm going to go against the grain. I'm going to take Oregon. So we got 2 for Michigan, 1 for Oregon plus the points. I'm always of the opinion that anytime that you can get what you feel is a great team and points, that you should take that. I feel Oregon's a great team. I'm going to take them and the points.
Yeah, I definitely agree too on the over 140. I saw it today at 146.5. I think. I think there's some good value there too. I think they'll score around 155, 160. So
moving
that whole region has been averaging 155. I think the Kansas region. So
right,
that'd be definitely a good bet. Just all the over in that particular region.
Moving on to the bane of my existence and Nathan Adrian and West Virginia and Gonzaga. Nathan Adrian's going to get out there and embarrass me again because I'm going to bet on them again. They're a 4-point underdog against Gonzaga. Gonzaga obviously 34-1, 20-10 against the spread. West Virginia is just 19-16 against the spread. We've seen how Gonzaga's played. They've played, about like you would expect them to play, really, having not been tested yet. They beat a pretty good Northwestern team, I guess, but only beat them by 6. West Virginia, on the other hand, really handled a team that I was high on. I thought Notre Dame was a good team. Any team that makes it to the ACC championship game is a good team. We'll talk more about
maybe
the ACC.
Not this year.
We'll talk more about the ACC here in a little bit when we get to the North Carolina game. But I think that Notre Dame was a good team, and they handled them by 12 points. So I guess the question you have to ask yourself, Braden, is if you're going to put money on it, and you're going to put money on Gonzaga, or on this game in general, the question you have to really have a firm answer to, I think, is whether you think that Gonzaga is real and they're a good team, or that you're not a believer yet, because I think that determines how you pick this game.
Right, and I think this is one of the toughest picks in the Sweet 16 because I'm really not sure about Gonzaga still. They won their first game by 20 points over South Dakota State. Then they beat Northwestern in a somewhat controversial ending. Yeah,
that whole block thing.
Right. And then you look at West Virginia, who is one of my favorite picks going into this. I picked them over Bucknell, and I had them over Notre Dame. I thought Notre Dame was a little overrated, disagreeing with what you said, but I thought Notre Dame was a little overrated. So this game, I'm still not really sure about. The spread's at 3.5, favoring Gonzaga. But I'm so conflicted about this one because Gonzaga, I'm still not sure what kind of team they are.
I think this will answer a lot of questions.
Right.
And
West Virginia, I'm very high on West Virginia. They scored above 80 points both their games. Gonzaga scored mid-60s, almost got to 80 last round. And so I think West Virginia will cover 3.5, and I think they might win outright as well. I picked Gonzaga in my bracket over West Virginia, but this is a game I'm staying away from as a better. And so I'll go with Gonzaga, but I'm not betting this game.
I really like West Virginia. They've just had a penchant for playing really close games this year, and that's what makes me timid about a 3.5 or a 4-point line. They've played. They can play with anybody. They've played with Kansas. They've played with some of the best teams in the Big 12. I just wonder if the spread isn't too much. I actually like West Virginia to win the game. I'm just going to have an internal battle here before Christian talks over the next 2 or 3 minutes to determine whether I think that that West Virginia is actually capable of beating, keeping this within 4 points. I think West Virginia probably wins the game, and they play close games. But Gonzaga's a great team. I don't know. Right. What do you think, Christian?
Gonzaga's a great team. Do we really know that?
No, we don't.
Do we ever really know with Gonzaga?
We thought the ACC was a good basketball conference too, but
Here's the thing: the last time that West Virginia was in a game like this in the Sweet 16 was when they played Kentucky in 2015. The reason I say that is because Kentucky, according to every advanced stat, was far and away better than everybody else, and they proved it. I mean, they played a quality competition all year, and they showed it against them. They showed it against just everybody that they ever played. So it made sense, right? And they end up destroying West Virginia, like a traditional Bob Huggins team. They weren't a bad team. They were a pretty good team that year, just got destroyed by Kentucky.
Wasn't that the year that, I can't even remember the guy's name, but he blew out his ACL in the second quarter or second half or something like that?
No, 2015 was when Kentucky was undefeated, and then they lost to Wisconsin in the Final Four.
I think I'm thinking of a few years earlier when Huggins was crying on the court with his I can't remember that kid's name.
Yeah, it was a little bit back. I think to 2010, same year Duke won.
But to your point.
But the point I'm trying to make with this is Gonzaga is, according to every advanced stat, is far and away the best team in the country, offensively and defensively. The difference being that Gonzaga plays in the West Coast Conference. And Gonzaga has proven me wrong. Not me wrong, just proven advanced stats or proven everybody wrong for a very long time. If you try to buy into the hype that Gonzaga is, they will surely let you down. In not a pretty way either. They don't.
I have to pose this question to you though, Christian. Does it, as an ACC advocate, does it make you how does it make you feel on the inside when I say this statement? The WCC and the ACC have the same number of Sweet 16 teams.
It's merely circumstantial, but
is it painful on the inside?
No, I don't. I mean, I don't really care. I mean, a 1-game sample size does not build the or does not
a 10-team sample size kind of does though, or a 9-team, whatever it was.
Dude, much larger point, seedings, all that bullshit. Anyway, back to this. I think that West Virginia, and that is a really impressive win. Them beating Notre Dame. I think West Virginia was a 3 seed all along.
Yeah,
I think they played like that. Well. If Baylor's a 3 seed, then West Virginia's a 3 seed. There's no way around it.
I'd feel more comfortable with it the other way. I like West Virginia as a 3 and Baylor as a 4. I don't think Baylor necessarily did anything towards the back half of the season to earn that 3.
Yeah, and the big thing about that is you would think that, okay, well, that sucks for West Virginia. They had to play such a good team or such a team that's been there. They've done this whole tournament charade. They've done everything, and they played well all year. That they had to play them in the second round, but they were able to make Notre Dame turn the ball over, and they don't turn the ball over whatsoever. They take care of the ball, so it's something that should kind of show you the strength of this West Virginia team. And Gonzaga hasn't seen anything like West Virginia and the type of pressure that West Virginia is going to bring to them. So with Gonzaga also being pretty disappointing through the first 2 tourney games, and not even able to cover the spread in those games. Actually, they've only covered their spread in I think 3 of their last 8 games, something like that. It's and with their play being really just less than inspiring, especially against Northwestern, I think West Virginia just wins the game outright, and I think they cover their end of the spread.
I am in agreement with you. I think West Virginia covers the spread and probably wins the game by a tiny amount. Purdue at Kansas. Not at Kansas. Purdue playing Kansas on a neutral floor.
Purdue, it's basically at Kansas.
Do they just hand the Nate Smith Award to whoever wins this game?
Yes.
I think so too. 2 of the best players that are in college basketball. Swanigan averaging a double-double or close to it. Is he actually averaging a double? I think he might be averaging a double-double.
And he's had it in like
20-some
games.
Yeah, now that I'm looking at it, it's not even particularly close. 18-5 points, 12.5 rebounds. And then you got Frank Mason, who's, just dropping 21 a game. No big deal. 5 assists. This is a really interesting game. I have an interesting stat right here in front of me. Purdue is 0-1 against the spread as the underdog. That means, Christian, that they've played 27. They're 27. They've played 34 games this year, and in 33 they've been the favorite. What does that say about the Big Ten's schedule? that Purdue has been an underdog one time in the entire year. Kansas, on the other hand, 19-13 against the spread. Purdue's 12-11, 2 overall. So, Christian, who is the best player in this game and perhaps in college basketball?
Caleb Swanigan's the best player. I mean, I don't think there's any real debate to that, and I think he should win the Naismith Award. That's just hard to do. Averaging a double-double and doing what he's done
in
just
40
absolutely
minutes.
Dominate. Like, he doesn't do this while just averaging a double-double, and he's rarely non-existent throughout the entire game. He does this while dominating, mind you. And it's just so impressive to watch him play. But at the same time, I think Kansas wins the game.
Do they cover their 5-point spread?
Frank Mason. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's gonna be difficult to truly buy into that and say that they will, because I think it has every ability to be a very close game. But I think that Kansas could also blow them out. I don't say blow them out. I say probably a 10-point win. I think that they could do that, and I think it'd be within the realm of possibilities for them. Here's a stat that I wrote down. 4 seeds getting less than 40% of the spread bets have gone 1-4 against the spread since 2005. All right, only 25% of spread bets have been placed on Purdue as 5-1 underdogs.
Wow, there's some advanced statistics. That's some advanced betting statistics on
Yeah.
advanced basketball statistics.
Right.
I'm impressed.
Okay, well, so I will say that I think Kansas covers their end of the spread. They're -5, but I think as this game as a whole, I think the better angle is the over. 5 of Purdue's last 6 have went over. Just sailed over, actually, by an average of 8.5. Kansas's last 4 games have gone over as well. And in addition, these aren't squeaking over the total. They're going over by an average of 15 points.
So what you're saying is
156 is a lot, but
yeah, what you're saying is the last 8 numbers have been red, and you're betting on red.
Basically. And at 150, I think it's 157 right now, and that is high, and it would make me, or a cause for some concern or question, but not really when you consider how Purdue and Kansas have played lately, and just their entire year for the over/under.
So are you taking Kansas or Purdue against the spread?
I'm taking Kansas against the spread.
Kansas against the spread, and you're taking the over.
Oh yeah.
I actually think I think if I was starting a schoolyard game, I'd pick Frank Mason over Caleb Swanigan. But so yeah, I think he's the best player in the basketball.
He does dirty work.
But I do agree that I know I'm going to contradict myself. I think Mason's the best player. I think Swanigan probably deserves the Naismith Award. So Brandon, Kansas -5 or Purdue +5. What do you got in this one?
Well, as we've talked about earlier this year, I've told you that Kansas has been my team that I've bet against all season long, pretty much, for them covering the spread. I've pretty much bet against them covering. So I like Purdue +5.5. I think this is going to be a very close game, very high-scoring game. I think Kansas will end up winning by 3, maybe 4 points. So if the spread was at 3 or maybe 3.5, I'd feel much more comfortable with it. But I think 5.5 is just laying too many points for Kansas.
It's a lot of points to give away.
But I do like the over, as you guys said, at 150, 157, 156.5. Kansas has scored 90 and 100 points in the tournament so far, and Purdue scored 80 points both their games. So I think this game will end up being in the 166, 167 point total range, and Kansas by 3, maybe 4 points.
You guys are both betting red. I'm betting black. I'm gonna go under. I'm gonna go with Purdue. But I think Kansas wins the game.
The title of the show is not bet against us. It's
That is a fact.
But I think when you've got these two current players, as you talked about, I think that they'll just both play very well, and I think this game's going to be very high scoring.
Yeah, I say what you just said one more time, Brandon. My computer had a little bleep in it. Go.
I think both these players for Purdue and Kansas, and Frank Mason and Swanigan, and you really didn't even mention Josh Jaxon, who's my favorite player out of both these teams. 6'8" freshman, averaging 16 and 8 or 7, I believe. And I think this is going to be a very high-scoring game, very fun to watch. So I'm taking over in Purdue.
I agree.
Spread.
I was very high on Josh Jackson's ability early in the season. I really thought he was good, and that he was leading the team when Mason was going through a little bit of a spell. But if I need him to vandalize any women's cars, he's probably actually better at that.
I think with that, though, I think that Vince Edwards just plays so well defensively. I think it's just going to be, and that Purdue does rely on Vince Edwards to create and score on offense. I think they're largely going to take each other out of the game, and I think it's going to come down to Frank Mason just being able to create not only for himself but for everyone around him, including Josh Jackson.
Moving on to the next game, Xavier at Arizona. Xavier may be the true Cinderella of the tournament. I realize that they're not maybe as Cinderella-y as Cinderellas can be, but Xavier is an interesting team. They were highly touted coming into the year, and then they just didn't, live up maybe to their expectations. Arizona, on the other hand, is as good as it gets. I think you just told me an interesting stat before we started recording that Sean Miller had been to the Sweet 16 4 times and he'd been to the Elite 8 3 times. So that means they're winning at about 75% when they make it this far. They've got the easiest draw of the teams that are remaining, Arizona does. The question is, can Arizona cover such a large spread? The spread right now is at 7.5, and I'd honestly expect to maybe see it at 8.5 before tomorrow. I think Arizona's going to be heavily bet on because, Xavier doesn't have they don't feel like a Cinderella. They're Xavier. Like, people know who they are. They're a good team. I don't think that bettors are going to be heavy on Cinderella with it being Xavier. I think that Xavier's kind of gotten lucky with the draw. And I think that Arizona's a really good basketball team. So 7.5 point spread, Brandon, is that too much for Arizona, or do you think they cover that?
Yeah, I think this is too many points. I think this will be a low-scoring game, or a low-spread game.
Yeah, 145 over/under. You can comment on that as well.
And the over/under is kind of tough to bet on too. So I think what a smart play here would be, and this is what I'm going to do, is I don't like 7.5. If it got down to 5, I would probably take Arizona, but I don't see it dropping 2.5 points. I think it'll go the other way around and go up a point, like you said. And so what I'm going to do is just wait for the start of the game and do some live bets on this, and hopefully Xavier will come out and maybe hit a 3 or a quick bucket and drop the spread down to 5 or 5.5 on the live betting, and I think that would be a smart play there. I think Arizona wins by 5 or 6 points, but I don't see them covering 7.5.
It is a large cover, Christian. If Xavier is to keep it close, how do they keep it close?
I really haven't been able to find the answer for that, which is why I'm really comfortable with taking Arizona and the minus 7.5. And the reason is because without Sumner, I really don't feel confident enough in their team as a whole to be able to contain Arizona. I mean, just with Arizona's ever since Trier got back, they just look like a machine on the offensive end. Just being able to churn out points at will. So, unless Blewett probably scores 30 or something like that, just absolutely takes the game over. I really don't think it's going to be that close. And I think I have Arizona winning it easily. And for me, it's probably the easiest one of the 8 Sweet 16 games is this Arizona minus 7.5 for me.
I actually tend to agree with Brandon a little bit on this one. I think those are a lot of points to give up, especially in a tournament situation. And this is March Madness, baby. You never know what's going to happen. But at the same time, Xavier hasn't really been good all season long. They've had a pretty easy draw. I think Maryland was probably the most overseeded team in the tournament.
It was the FSU game win was impressive, especially with how well they played and how they absolutely dismantled them.
But it's not like FSU had been playing particularly well over the past.
Yeah, 1 game sample size. Once again, they don't really tell you much.
Yeah, I guess, but I think I'm going to take Arizona minus the points, but I don't feel too good about that. I think this one's really close. I think this one's right around an 8 or a 9 point game. I think Xavier will play motivated.
Since 2010, 11 seeds are 0-5 straight up against 2 seeds, and 1-3-1 against the spread.
Butler and North Carolina. The second day of the Sweet 16, Butler 25-8, North Carolina the ACC regular season champion, and you knew it was coming. ACC basketball is bad. The ACC probably had the worst showing.
Stop it.
I just can't believe that I was convinced that they were the best basketball. We were talking about Clemson possibly being in, and Georgia Tech. These teams couldn't even go even, not even close. They were 4-12, and we were talking about them maybe deserving a tournament spot. Listen, the ACC is not as good as we thought. That's just a fact. The Big Ten's a little bit better than we thought. The SEC is way better than we thought. But the ACC like I told you the other day, I remember when the SEC went 3-6 in bowl season, and everybody acted like it was the end of the world. When am I going to hear the end of the world talk for 1-9 to the Sweet 16 for the ACC? That's bad, Christian. Defend the ACC. Defend your own team. Miami get blown out by 20 against a Michigan State team that was not good. They're not good. I don't even think that Michigan State belonged in the tournament, and they made Miami look like a dumpster.
No, Michigan State definitely deserved to be in that tournament, but I'm not going to defend that because that was just absolutely poor showing. But that was just Miami playing terribly. Virginia Tech had the worst draw of all the ACC tournament teams. That they had to play Wisconsin in the first round. Virginia Tech would have beat any other 8 seed, and I tell you this, I say 8 seed because Wisconsin is not an 8 seed. They are a 5 seed.
You're right.
They played like a 5 seed all year, and they are a great team.
Will they beat Villanova?
The reason they're in the Sweet 16 is not just because they beat Villanova. It's because they are a great team.
Would Virginia Tech have beaten Villanova?
No, but it's. Then
we'd still be talking about 1-9. We'd still be talking about 1-9.
But Villanova shouldn't have had to play a 5 seed in the second round, basically.
I think Maryland was super overseeded. I think Wisconsin was super underseeded.
FSU. But here's the thing: Louisville was overseeded. They didn't need to be a number 2. I don't know why they put him as a number 2. And even though they put him as a number 2, they probably gave him the hardest second round game they could possibly have.
That was going to be hard.
Oklahoma State.
Yeah, depending on who they play. Those 2 are the hottest teams in basketball.
Right. FSU is they're disappointing. All right, I've dealt with that all year. Notre Dame had another unfortunate draw, having to play West Virginia, who in my mind was a 3 seed
West
in the
Virginia's
second
terrible,
round.
though.
Any other 4 seed, I feel like they could have probably beat.
I know I just picked them to beat Gonzaga, but West Virginia's not good. They just hustle. If you're an elite level basketball team, you should beat.
If you don't turn the ball over, the way that Notre Dame doesn't. And West Virginia literally shakes you up that much that you turn the ball over at the rate they were. Then they're obviously a good team. West Virginia's a good team. It's just I think it's just unfortunate for Notre Dame that they had to play them in the second round.
What about North Carolina being 2 referee calls away from losing to Arkansas?
I don't know, man. North Carolina they all see the thing
was
with
it a
Roy
walk?
Williams,
was it a charge? Was it a block? We'll never know.
The thing here's the thing. Arkansas should have scored in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, that would have been helpful.
Yeah, that probably would have helped. Try to actually win.
Would have
went
a long way.
I can't really complain about foul calls whenever you're not making shots.
I can because he walked. He walked. He walked and he got 2 points out of the deal. Those were 2 crucial points.
You still got to make the shots though. But Roy Williams is just.
I agree, but he still walked. Anyways, Butler. I digress. Butler is a giant killer. They beat Villanova twice this year, which may not mean a lot, but maybe it is a lot. I'm sure it's still big for their confidence. They're going into this game thinking, North Carolina, we could beat North Carolina. We beat Villanova twice. Why can Butler win this game?
Why can they?
Yes, why can they win this game?
Because they like to prove everybody wrong when it comes tourney time. I mean, well, at first
They
I thought
do
it was
have a
just
penchant for
Brad
this.
Stevens, but if Butler ends up beating North Carolina, then I'm just gonna say it's just Butler itself.
How do you feel when I say Butler and 7 points? Because that makes me feel pretty good.
I'm comfortable with that. I know I know I'm taking that. I mean, Butler +7. That's another easy one too. That's the weirdest thing though. The two biggest spreads are the ones that I'm most comfortable with.
Yeah.
These 8 games.
You're probably
and
really
the reason I'm
comfortable
comfortable
with
with that is because North Carolina plays close games in the tourney.
Yep.
Where Williams has shown it in the past. Yet they end up barely squeaking by. Even though North Carolina's super talented team, probably should just blow them out. But they're not going to because
They don't
that's
blow it.
not
They're
the
like
way they want to play.
North Carolina football is like, or North Carolina basketball is like Tennessee football. They don't blow anybody out. They play everybody close. That's just their thing. That's been what they've been a thing for the past couple years. I mean, they beat whatever they're 16 seeds, they'll blow them out. But if you're a quality basketball team, you're probably going to play North Carolina pretty close. Butler is like I said, they're a giant killer. They live for this moment. This is what their school basketball history over the past 10 years has been. This is the team they've been this season. Like, if there's any team, any 4 seed that I don't want to face is North Carolina, this is it. These guys literally came to Butler after watching Butler slay giants on TV for the last, 4 to 5 years. That's what they grew up on. That's why they chose Butler. That's, Brad Stevens era stuff. What do you think about this one, Brandon? Is 7 too much? Are you confident on North Carolina giving up 7 points?
Yeah, I think 7.5. I'm going Butler for sure on this. I think this will be a 4 to 5 point victory for the Tar Heels. I've been big on the Tar Heels all year. I picked them to win my bracket, and I've actually got some money on the futures bet for them to win it all. So I've got my bracket in, my wallet on the line with North Carolina, but I just think 7.5 is too many points. And I think Butler covers the spread here. The over/under, I'm staying away from at 153. I don't really see that one going over, but I'm not really sure what to expect with this Carolina team. They could come out and score 90 points, or they could come out and score 60. I think they're the most.
I definitely particularly have problems when they're in those mid 153 range on the over/under. It's kind of really hard to predict. When you've got 2 decently good offensive basketball teams, it's hard to predict when they're in the mid 150s. I agree with you staying away from that.
But Butler on the spread for sure. I think that's too many points. I think Butler covers that by a couple points pretty easily.
I think we're all pretty much in agreement, which is dangerous for you guys. I'm taking Butler plus the 7 or 7.5, whatever it ends up being. The most interesting game of the day, well, there's 2 interesting games. I think this one's particularly interesting because who knows who South Carolina is. South Carolina is a team that's 24-10. They were 12-6 in the SEC. They've been up and down all season. And then they come out against Duke and they looked better in every aspect of the game. Baylor, on the other hand, is the exact same team. They started, 19-0, Christian? And then they've just kind of been limping ever since. They'll win a couple big games, they'll lose a couple big games. They'll win a game here, they'll lose a game here. They beat a pretty good USC team. They beat New Mexico State. But you've got to think that South Carolina is really riding a lot of confidence coming into this game. Here's the kicker. South Carolina's 15-2 against the spread. Baylor, 16-16 against the spread. The spread in this one, South Carolina is a 3-point underdog. 3.5, actually. Who are you taking in this one, Brandon? 3.5 to South Carolina, or 3.5 from Baylor?
I actually think South Carolina wins this game outright. I think they'll cover the spread, and I think the money line bet's a good choice here. I think South Carolina wins this one outright. I think anytime a team puts up 65 points against one of the most talented teams in the country in one half in the second round of the NCAA tournament, I'm gonna ride that team until they show me something else. So I'm high on South Carolina right now. I think they're just gonna outscore Baylor, and I think this will be a very high scoring game. So I'm going South Carolina on the spread and the money line. and 135 on the over.
That's
easy.
a really, really low over-under. I agree with you on that one.
That's my favorite bet. The whole Sweet 16 is over 135 for this game. I think they're gonna beat it by 20 points.
Definitely super low, and if they get as hot as they were in the second half the other night, they're gonna break that record by themselves. It's South Carolina is like I said, they've just been so streaky all season, and that's what I'm scared of if I'm Baylor, because South Carolina's shown that they can be really bad, but they've also shown that they can be like elite level good. I think that's why I think the committee got it right with putting them as a 7 seed. But what do you think about them playing these last 2 or 3 games at home there, Christian, versus where they're gonna have to play now?
Yeah, where'd they play these last 2 games?
They play these last 2 games in New York.
No. Where'd they play the first 2 games?
They played the first 2 games in Greenville, South Carolina, about an hour from campus.
Gotcha. All right. Well, South Carolina's awful at shooting. They're absolutely abysmal. They can't shoot. Their life depended on it, but they can, I guess, in 2 home games in the tournament. Their shooting's going to come back down to normal, and I don't see them playing particularly well offensively against Baylor, who's had a pretty good defense all year. Pretty average team, like you had said in the build-up for this. And they're both really pretty terrible against the spread.
Yeah,
I mean, not particularly good. But I mean, before the tournament even began, South Carolina was 4-6 straight up. But we're 1-9 against the spread in those games.
Yeah, they were both real hot in the early part of the year when they were underrated, and I think they got really ahead on the spread, and then they've been, not living up to expectations for the last month and a half.
And I think it's just one of those things. It's a product of the tournament. It means these 2 games. I know that they've shot well, and it's easy to say, yeah, I'm gonna ride that because of how well they've been playing in these two games. It's just 2 games. I mean, somebody's got to win this one game in particular, and I don't feel safe, or I don't trust South Carolina enough to say, yeah, I'm gonna ride that. Baylor's actually shown something this year,
but Baylor minus the 3.5, maybe 4 points.
Yeah, I know it seems big, considering how well South Carolina's defense has played, but at the same time, I can't bring myself to even ride with South Carolina, or ride them out as much as some people would. Yeah,
Frank Martin. So.
And Frank Martin is such a good coach. That's the thing that makes that hard for me, is that I do like Frank Martin as a coach, and he's turned South Carolina around so well that I think for South Carolina, moving on, I think that they're going to be in the tournament consistently. So that's another thing. But 7 seeds as a whole, since I don't know, just the last few years, 4 or 5, 4-6 straight up, and 4-6 against the spread. I've already picked 1 7 seed, so I'm gonna go with Baylor in the -3.5 or -3 on this one.
So 2 on South Carolina for this game, including myself. Christian is on Baylor. The only thing I want to note about Frank Martin is he kind of looks like the guy that never stopped wearing his dad's suits. UCLA versus Kentucky, 9:39. I mean, he wears the worst suits. I just can't believe a grown man goes out in public get a suit that oversized and ugly. 9:39, UCLA, Kentucky, the rematch. UCLA 16-15 against the spread. Kentucky 20-15. Boy, Kentucky was bad in the early part of the season, but they seem really good now. UCLA is, of course, the best team since ever. I'm quoting LeVar Ball on that. That's where I get most of my UCLA information these days. They are the best team to ever play basketball. They're scoring 190 points a game. They're only allowing 7. So who you got winning this one, Christian?
I've got Kentucky. And
you're betting against you're betting against the best team ever?
Yeah.
We are not going to be picking up any listeners named LeVar anytime soon.
Yeah, well, I don't really care.
This is in the FedEx Forum. This is like a home game for Kentucky. Maybe you're just picking the home teams at this point.
He doesn't. LeVar Ball doesn't listen to anything. That's where he gets his opinion. He just gets his opinions from whatever pops into his head.
Yeah, listens to himself talk out loud because he's crazy.
Kentucky and UCLA played it really close earlier in the year. Lonzo Ball played terrific, and that was pretty much the reason they won. But I don't see it hitting twice. I think that the Kentucky. I mean, really, this is just who do you think? I mean, I think that they're both really similar teams. I think that it's going to be another close game, and I think that they're both going to score with each other up and down the court. But I mean, I think with Kentucky, with it being so close to home, and with them having lost to them earlier in the season in a close one, I feel much safer just riding with Kentucky on this one.
It is going to be, the FedEx Forum will be a very distinct dark royal blue shade for this game. It's going to be tough for UCLA, I think, in what will feel like a Big Blue Nation home game. I have one more question for you, Christian. If you are the worst team in the NBA, and I know so little about the NBA, I couldn't tell you who is the worst team in the NBA, but if you are the worst team in the NBA, who are you taking first? Lonzo, Malik, De'Aaron Fox. I give you those three players and say these are the only three players declaring for the draft this year, and you've got the first pick. Who are you taking? Irrespective of your team's needs. Don't cop out.
Well, I mean that's difficult because I mean the Nets are the worst, and I mean considering I mean the draft lottery itself, if they were to win, it would go to Boston, and I don't know what Boston would think. I'm assuming that they would think that Lonzo Ball. That's if they get the first pick. But I mean, if
you draft really Lonzo Ball, do you have to give LeVar a locker as well?
Yes. You have to give his two brothers a locker as well, even when they're on other teams in the NBA, because they'll get drafted based on their name alone.
Do you think that Lonzo Ball still drinks from the bottle, like the milk bottle, and that's why his skin is so bad? Because I feel like his dad probably still hands it. He looks like a big, gigantic baby man.
Yeah,
that's like, and you can tell his parents have really swaddled him, and that's why it's like I've got a sport parent. Like my mom was kind of like LeVar Ball, so I understand what he's going through. It's got to be really hard not to say, "Hey, Dad, shut up."
Well, I think with him though, it's I mean, you remember when Blake Griffin came out, how blown up his face was too, though. He didn't look particularly good either.
Yeah, you're right. A couple $1 million can make you look a little bit better.
I think just age itself.
He looks like a baby man. He's 6'9", and I just don't know. He's got one of those faces that just doesn't sit well with me, and I have a hard time rooting for his success because he, and then his dad doesn't make it any better. I don't know. I think Steve Kerr was onto something earlier this week when he said that LeVar wasn't doing his sons any favors. But for me, I think I'd take De'Aaron Fox. I think he's going to end up being a better player. He's just got more of a burst of speed and.
Well, I mean, I like Markelle Fultz probably as a true point guard better than any of them. I mean, just what he's able to do. But at the same time, he
wasn't on the list. He was. I got Fox, Monk, and Ball, and you're telling me about who?
Markelle Fultz.
You had three choices and you picked.
There is a fight in the Toronto Raptors Chicago Bulls game that literally just happened. Oh my God.
God, we're gonna have to edit that out. Fuck you.
It was crazy. I'm sorry, dude. There was punches being thrown, man.
All right, here we go. Ready? 3, 2, 1. All right, Brandon, you have to weigh in on this debate. One, Ball, Fox, or Monk.
This is my area.
And who are you taking in this game with UCLA? I don't even think I said the spread. UCLA is a 1-point favorite in this game. You're taking Christian's on Kentucky. I as well am going to be on Kentucky plus the point.
Yeah, I'm on Kentucky as well. I picked them to go to my Final Four. Not my Final Four, Elite Eight, losing to North Carolina. So I'm going Kentucky over UCLA. I think that they've just got more talent with De'Aaron Fox and Malik Monk. So I'm going Kentucky on that, and actually, it's a pick'em on my my website now. So 1 pointer pick'em. I'm going Kentucky either way. Also on the over/unders, 166.
Yeah, super high.
It's actually dropped down 3 points from this morning. I got it this morning on the under at 168.5. So
I think the under is a good bet right now.
I just don't see that's 80 points each, over 80 points each. So I'm going Kentucky in the under.
They did score close to, what was it, 97-92, I think, the first game? Yeah, 97-92. So.
But this is the tournament. Guys step up their defensive effort a little bit more in March than they do in September or October.
I guess the only thing that for me that provides confidence in betting the under on that is Kentucky hasn't scored a lot of points so far. They only scored 79 also, while at 74 possessions per game against Northern Kentucky. So I guess that's the only silver lining for me on that.
Yeah, that's a tough one. If they get to where it's back and forth, constantly scoring Lonzo Ball and Monk or Fox going at each other back and forth, then it'll go over the over. But I just don't see that happening. I think it'll slow down in the latter portion of the second half, and it'll be a tight game. And Kentucky pulls it out.
Tournament games, they end up kind of coming down from whatever they average in possessions because it likes to be a half court game. People like it that way, so they can get a possession at the very end.
You know who really benefits from all this LeVar Ball, Lonzo Ball talk? Kentucky's freshmen.
Yeah.
Normally the lead on ESPN is, can Kentucky do it? Can Kentucky win a game with all these kids? Where's that story been? It's not been there. There's not been much media attention on them because they've been focused on the next batshit crazy thing that LeVar Ball will vomit out of his vocal cords.
John Calipari, he gets there and he just has nothing but success.
Aren't they kind of flying under the radar right now?
A little bit. I think
that's really good for Fox, and I hope that that gives them a sense of calmness, that gives them a little bit of an advantage that they normally have to deal with this stuff they're not having to deal with now, and I also hope that he takes it a little bit personally, because all the talk's been about Lonzo Ball. Fox is just as good in my opinion. I hope he shows up to prove it.
I think the thing for Kentucky, it's kind of hard to have a calm attitude when knowing that even if you do beat UCLA, you probably have North Carolina again in the next round.
Although if Arkansas can stay close, Kentucky has to feel pretty good.
Yeah, De'Aaron Fox, I do love him as a prospect, and he hasn't shot well from the three this year, but I think that's just how Kentucky's offense has been for him, and just kind of hasn't found his rhythm. But he still can.
Also needs to put on a little bit of size, but got plenty of time.
Yeah, just real quick, answering your draft question, I kind of agree. I think De'Aaron Fox has the more athletic ability, and I think he reminds me a lot of John Wall.
Yep. Yeah.
Just being able to just turn the corner, really, he's got that burst of speed. But I think Lonzo Ball and Markelle Fultz and Jason Tatum are all better prospects for the NBA. If you kind of look back at all Tatum. These, I'm big on Jason Tatum. I think those will be the top three picks, and I think De'Aaron Fox and Malik Monk will drop in somewhere after them. I just think that if you look at all these Kentucky past guards, really the only ones that have been studs in the NBA are John Wall and Bradley Beal. And I just don't think that De'Aaron Fox he's got the athleticism, but I don't think he's got the shooting range. And I just think Malik Monk, unless he fills out his body. But
here's the difference, though. Malik Monk is going to be able to shoot no matter where he's at. The kid can absolutely stroke it. I don't think he's going to be, Fox could be a bust in the NBA. Malik Monk is not, because you can't teach that pure shooting ability. No. At the worst, he's going to be Kyle Korver. At the best, he's going to be, Kyrie Irving.
At the worst, he's gonna be out of the NBA after his rookie contract.
No way. He can shoot too good. He's just got too good of a shooting talent to be wasted.
Yeah, but
it doesn't come. He's the more safe prospect. I think that Fox could develop into one of the best basketball players in the NBA, but it's going to take some development. I think Monk is good enough to go play two guard somewhere, give him the ball when he gets open, and he's going to drain some threes. He's a really good. He could be. I look at him when I think Kyle Korver, the shooting specialist, he could grow into that role in the NBA, or he could turn his game into a complete player.
Why wouldn't you say J.J. Redick? Man?
Yeah, or J.J. Redick. Yeah. If you're a little older. Wisconsin, Florida. Wisconsin is the giant killer apparently because they're an 8 seed, even though there shouldn't have been an 8 seed. Any team that finishes as highly in a major conference as they did shouldn't be an 8 seed. And they play Florida. Florida held a pretty good ETSU offensive team in ETSU to 65 points, and I think Ken Palm's 35th best defensive team. They scored 80 on them. Then they played the number 1 best defensive team in UVA, and UVA actually, I just heard that they thought the object was to bounce the ball on the floor, and that's how you scored points. They didn't realize you had to shoot it through the hoop. That's why they only were able to score 39 against Florida's defense, which allows just 52 points a game. Wisconsin also has pretty good defense, only allowing 68. Florida's 20-12 against the spread. Wisconsin 19-16. SEC bias, so I'm starting with Brandon, who is an SEC alum. Who wins this game, with Florida being a 2-point favorite?
Yeah, I'm taking Florida. I think they cover. I think that's basically a pick 'em at 2. It was at 1.5 earlier. It's actually bumped up to 2. I think if you could wait and get them at 1.5, that would be the better bet. But I'm taking Florida. I just think their defense will prevail over Wisconsin's offense. I think this will be the best game of the weekend, at least for me, or the later part of the week, when Thursday and Friday. Even over UCLA and Kentucky, I'm looking forward to this game the most. As much as I would love to see Florida lose, I just think they'll pull this one out. Yeah.
Do you think Florida Christian has the easiest path to the Final Four?
No, I don't.
Who do you think has the easiest path to the Final Four? If not Florida, then
Kansas.
They're going to have to go through Michigan, and that's not going to be an easy out.
They're all relatively going to have challenges in getting past whoever they play. I mean, Florida. I mean, this is no easy matchup for them. I mean, what Wisconsin does really well, and what they've been able to do for the longest time, when Bo Ryan was there and Greg Gard has kind of picked up where he left off, is they just play that slow tempo, the back and forth half-court game that kind of draws you in. Doesn't matter if you try to push the pace, they stay true to what they're trying to do. I know Florida has an elite level defensive ability, but Wisconsin does too. And at the end of the day, I think it's going to come down to what they're able to do with Ethan Happ on the offensive end with Wisconsin. And I think the game will just fall right into the Wisconsin space. And without Florida having what is his name? Why do I always forget it? Got towards ACL and towards the end of the SEC schedule.
Yeah, Igbanu, that's his name.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking of I've been looking at Miami's upcoming roster, so I've been thinking of Azundu.
Devin Reed.
But nonetheless, I just think that Wisconsin's been here before. They were here last year. I think that they're just gonna be able to keep it at their pace and the way they want to. And I think Ethan Happ's gonna be the difference. And I think that Wisconsin ends up winning the game. So I would take Wisconsin on a +2. It's worth noting that Florida is really impressive against the spread this year. So
yeah, they're very good.
I mean, that has cause for concern, but not really. I mean, I like Wisconsin enough to roll with that.
I'm impressed by the job that Mike White is doing. I think Florida does have the easiest path. I think that Wisconsin and South Carolina or who's South Carolina playing? I'm going to record that.
Who?
Baylor.
Yeah.
I think that Florida does have the easiest path. I think that South Carolina or Baylor and Wisconsin make up 3 of maybe the worst 8 teams that are still left. Not that any of them are bad, but they're the weakest teams. Florida's playing really good defense right now, and if they continue to score the ball like they have the past couple games, maybe they're getting hot at the right time. They were certainly cold coming into the tournament, but the tournament is the right time to get hot. If you're going to do it, I am going to take Florida, so that's 2 for Florida and 1 for
also
Wisconsin.
Worth noting, betting the under on Florida games really reliable.
What's this one sitting at? 130?
131.5, which also
that's
very
low.
small. It's minuscule. I'm comfortable enough to roll with that.
I would take the under as well. One thing, Nigel Hayes for Wisconsin, I love watching him play. I think he's a stud, and I think if they're going to win the game, he's going to need to get 18 and 8, something like that. So
that's going to be it for us, guys. We'll be back on Friday night. We'll record one probably after the last game and talk about the Saturday and Sunday affairs. I'm sure there'll be action-packed, and I hope we get them all right and win ourselves, particularly me. I don't care if Christian wins, but particularly I hope I win myself a little bit of money. But until then, that is going to be all for us this time. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks to Brandon for helping us out. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me.
Yep, we'll see you next time, and maybe we'll see Brandon down the road as well.